All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 4 of our Head Start schedule. We're really excited to welcome you back if you've already been here and participating in our schedule. And for those of you who this might be your first day, welcome. My name is Asia O'Connor, and I am a member of the orientation team here at Georgian College, and we're really excited you can share your time with us here today. So before I hand it over to our lovely panelists from our International Center to chat with you this morning, I just want to give a little bit of information about how this session will flow. So we have some folks who are going to chat with you about housing and adapting to the Canadian culture, which is really exciting. So there's a bit of a presentation that will happen, and then we will open it up to some question and answer for the last half of this session. We do have the Q&A open for the full time though. So if this is your first time participating, you can take a look at the bottom of your screen and you will see two speech bubbles. That is our Q&A section. So just open it up and it'll open up on the right hand side of your screen. And that's where you can post your questions throughout the session. Just so you know, your sessions will be sent to us privately, so they won't be public, and we'll do our best to answer those. Please keep in mind that this session is about housing and adapting to the Canadian culture. So we want you to be mindful that if you're asking other questions, we may not have the experts online to answer that. So just please keep that in mind. So with that, the only other thing I want to share with folks, if this is your first time joining, we want to introduce you to the Say My Name initiative, which has been initiated by our awesome student club, which is called Enactus Georgian, who really started this initiative to support social isolation, particularly around mispronunciation of our names. So we encourage you to participate in this as you go to classes or as you set up your student email to put the phonetic spelling of your name in so that we all know how to say your name and you can feel welcomed and included in our community. We're supporting this by having it here in our backgrounds, and so we'll also share the link in how you can do this as well. But just wanted to share that great initiative and encourage folks to participate in that. So with that, welcome. I'm going to pass it on over to Sid to kick off the session. So over to you, Sid.
Thank you, Aisha. So my name is Sid, and I work at International Center as well. I'm not going to tell you my title because that's a long one. All you need to know is I'm here to help you, just like Aisha, Kenta, and rest of our team, Catherine as well, to help you, support you as smoothly as possible into the Canadian culture. We want to make sure that you do not have any issues while you are moving from your home country to Canada, as well as the cultural change involved in the entire process. As Aisha said, we will be covering housing, a bit about quarantine if you want to know about that, cultural adjustment. And again, if you haven't traveled to Canada yet, that does not mean that cultural adaptation is not important for you. And the reason for that is even in academic journey, you will find a lot of situations where you need to know about cultural sensitivity because you will be having classmates from all over the world. Not just that, you are going to start in an academic learning environment, which is completely different than your home country. So it's your responsibility to understand the rules associated with it. We will be telling you how you can reach out to us in case you have any questions as well. Now, I hope that you have reviewed the video that has been posted related to housing that Kenta made, and you have prepared some questions. If you haven't, Kenta will be sharing a couple of slides focusing on the important things, and you can ask as many questions as you want related to it. Do not hesitate, because again, as I say this all the time, the question that you have and you're hesitating to ask, other 500 students, 50 students, 100 students have the same question, but they are not having the courage to ask. So you are doing them a favor as well by asking that question. The video will be recorded and will be available for you to review later on if you want to after your classes start. The session is going to be completely informal, so ask your questions accordingly. Just make sure that you're asking questions which is relevant to the content that is being shared today. If there is any technical difficulty, we apologize for that in advance. Without further ado, Kenta, over to you. Oh, that rhymes.
Good morning, everyone from sunny Barrie. Here it's very warm today. It's gorgeous. Wherever you are, if you're in Canada, I hope you're enjoying the great weather. And my name is Kenta. Thanks, Sid, and thanks, Asia, for allowing me to be here. I work in International Center with Sid and Catherine, who is also going to speak a little bit after me. I mainly look after students' support in terms of housing and insurance. So you may have seen me in yesterday's presentation, and I'm really happy to be here. I was an international student, so I'm really happy to share my experience with you, and I'm really happy to be here to be able to support you. And hopefully those Head Start session will help you ease into those virtual new world. As Sid said, I think this is going to be a lot of new adjustment, but we hope that you enjoy the process of it. So without further ado, I have a couple of slides, like Sid said. I have done the presentation already in the video, but in this presentation slide today, I'm going to be really covering brief summary of the arrival process to Canada and also your housing search resources. So number one, for your arrival process, if you're overseas, this doesn't matter if you're an international student or domestic student who maybe living abroad for whatever reasons. You will have to check out the website that's under this link, important page, www. It's a long one, georgiancollege.ca. It's under International Student COVID-19 FAQs, especially under the Coming to Canada section. We have prepared a lot of resources for you, including quarantine checklist, how to plan for your arrival, what are the options for your quarantine packages, how to travel to Canada, your quarantine period, and what happens during that time. So we invite you to check this out. And most importantly, what you have to remember is to download those two applications called ArriveCan, and the other is called Georgian Assist app. Our quarantine and arrival process are done on Georgian Assist app, and the other one called ArriveCan is used by the federal government of Canada, by the Immigration Office, for you to submit your quarantine plan. So without those two applications, you will not be able to complete your quarantine process. Another important part is for you to complete what's called quarantine commitment form, and that can be found on Georgian Assist app. A little bit more information are available, of course, on the website that I shared a little bit ago. So that's pretty much about the arrival processes, and I'll be happy to answer your questions if you have anything. Next, I'm going to touch on housing searches. For international student housing, you can come to Georgian College Student International Student page. So it's www yada 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 international student. And if you click on to student life housing, then you'll be directed to this page. It may look a little bit different because we constantly change our pictures to make it more attractive for you guys. On this link, you'll find a list of links to housing search pages. You'll find the resources for your community success, some FAQs that are useful for your housing search and housing situations that you may come across living in Canada. That is pretty much it that I wanted to talk about the housing and then arrival processes. Another important information is here. This is my contact. My email address is intohousing@georgiancollege.ca. My phone number is Georgian College phone number extension 1392. And one more thing, I'm gonna put it in the chat box. Actually, I don't know if Aisha, can everybody see this chat? Okay. For your question about your quarantine support at georgiancollege.ca. Sorry, I forgot to put this in the slide, so I'm going to drop this for you. This is the email contact for any quarantine and arrival process questions. So that's it. Should I wait for the questions, or maybe should I pass it back to one of those beautiful people?
Yeah, let's go over Catherine now, and we'll take on the questions later.
Sounds good. So I'm going to be ending my slideshow and stop sharing. One moment here, please. Oh, There it is.
Catherine, I think you're on mute.
Okay, I think I'm not muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the session. My part is going to be about cultural adaptation, the process and tips for adaptation, navigating your journey through the process. My name's Catherine Valinga. I work as internationalization lead in the international department with my colleagues, Sid and Kenta. Yeah, specifically today, I'm just going to talk about the process that people go through when they cross into a new culture and have to adjust, and which you'll be doing. You maybe already have done if you're in Canada, or you will be doing upon your arrival in Canada. So we'll talk about the process and then about some strategies on how to manage the adaptation process. So yeah, I'm going to be asking people on the call if they could please use the, whoops. I'm using two screens, so I've got, yeah, I'm going to be asking people on the call to be using the poll everywhere just a couple of times during the presentation. So I wondered if you could please, if you're a participant on the call, go to poll everywhere on a device, and you can see at the top of the slide here that you've got the browser address, pollev.com/Catherine Vell 903. You might have the app already. This is a really common tool that people are using in presentations, and just sign in, just join, and we'll do a couple of polls during the next half hour. So yeah, the first question. So once you get on there and you add your name, you'll see the first question. If you're in Canada already, you might still be doing your quarantine, but you might be finished that. Some of you are still doing your study remotely. But I'd love to hear either your experience or your expectations of what are the differences that you have already encountered or that you expect to encounter between Canada and your home country. Great, we're getting some responses already, just words or phrases of things that you expect that will be different. And don't close the app, please. We're going to use it again. Time difference, absolutely. Weather, peace. Okay, great. Okay, weather's a big one, absolutely. Language, absolutely. Cultural difference. Getting lots of ideas going here. This is awesome. Okay, we've got diversity. We've got regulations, food, yes, climate, great, cold, for sure. It's much colder here than a lot of other countries. Okay, people. Lots and lots of stuff going on here. Great atmosphere, lifestyle, discipline, teaching for sure. Okay. Standard of living, yes, super. Environment, teaching, again, teaching, working. Okay, super. We've got some great ideas here. This is awesome. And all of these things are going to be differences that you're going to encounter. Multicultural is another one here. Climate, good. Clean. Hours, yes, hours, and when people do things, what time of day they do things. Great, thank you everyone for all of these awesome contributions. all of the things that you've mentioned are things that are going to be different. On this slide, I've put a famous kind of iconic symbol of Canada. This is a Canada goose, and Canada geese are a bit of like a symbol of Canada. They migrate, they're migratory birds. They're smart enough to go south in the wintertime and then come back to Canada in the summertime. So, you know, they go through a migration process just like you're going to be going through. And so it's just a little bit of a symbol of that. Now, you mentioned a lot of things that are absolutely different from country to country. And, you know, there's a lot of adjustments that we go through when we change countries. There's the food, you know, what we eat, how we eat it, when we eat it. There's weather, there's clothing that we need due to the climate. There's a language change, getting around, learning about the transportation system and places in a new city, knowing how the health services system works, understanding social norms and customs like manners, encountering different beliefs and values and accepted ways of behaving, especially in the academic context, because of the differences in academic culture. So all of the things that you've mentioned in the poll and all of these things are just some of the major adjustments that you face when you move to a new country. You're basically leaving behind everything that's familiar and acceptable that you've grown up with and your ways of thinking and believing about what's right and wrong, ways of doing things, and coming to an unfamiliar place where all of these things are different. So let's talk about what you as an international student can expect when you go through the process of adapting to life in Canada. Most people experience a range of feelings and reactions when they first arrive to a new culture, and emotions vary from person to person, and people experience them for longer or shorter durations of time, and they might go through the stages of cultural adaptation in a different order. So basically, cultural adaptation is the process and the time that it takes to integrate into the new culture and feel comfortable within it. So you've likely heard about this process, often described by the term culture shock. But culture shock is not actually really an accurate or positive term, because shock implies some kind of like a jolt or a zap of some sort, and culture shock is not really like that. It's more of a process. Unlike the term shock, it doesn't really result just from one event or strike suddenly with one cause. It's the long and sometimes frustrating process of adjusting after you've been cut off with all the things that you're familiar with. So it's a roller coaster of ups and downs that most people experience when they move to a new culture. And it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a teacher, a student, a migrant worker, a business person, a sports professional, we all go through it. And you won't be able to identify culture shock while you're struggling through it unless you are aware of the process. So awareness is key. It's a great thing to learn about the process ahead of time, like you're doing here today, because recognizing culture shock is an important way of being able to deal with it. As time goes by and you settle into your routine and register and start attending classes, you begin the process of making friends, and you explore your new surroundings. You are going to, be going through some emotional, some psychological, and possibly even some physical changes. You can't avoid the changes, but if you recognize them when they're occurring, you'll be better prepared to deal with the consequences. So awareness that, the emotions that you're going through is part of a process is key to successful adjustment. It minimizes the risks of becoming disenchanted with your new life or you know, just knowing that once you're beyond the initial stages and the most difficult stages, that life is going to get easier and better for you. And also knowing that cultural adjustment is an ongoing process that never really stops. So let's turn to look at what the different phases or stages of the cultural adaptation process are. First comes the honeymoon stage. Yeah, generally people are, you know, when they first arrive in a new place, they feel like they're on a honeymoon because they've got that sort of just married feeling. They feel excited to be in a new culture. Everything's new and fascinating, and they're infatuated with their new surroundings. Like everything's exotic and wonderful, and it feels like you're on holiday. And also similar to a honeymoon, this is also usually the stage where you don't really have too much experience of the deeper levels of difference in your new culture. And next usually comes the culture shock stage. This sets in when the honeymoon is over and you actually start experiencing the daily, the everyday routines, the housing, the transportation, the food, language, and people. You're no longer skimming the surface of the culture, and you're becoming more deeply immersed in the culture where you start to discover things are really different, sometimes strange, and often frustrating. You might find people's behavior unusual, unpredictable, even unacceptable, and you might feel fatigue start to set in. You get really tired from continuously communicating in a second language and functioning in ways that are different. Every interaction and every daily task that you do is done in a little bit different way, and it's really hard work. You might also experience feelings on this slide: lost, confused, unsure, unclear, all of these things and more. Discontentment, impatience, sometimes anger, sometimes sadness, and a lot of people lose their confidence a little bit in themselves because all your usual ways of doing things are not working as well as they do in your home culture. So during this stage, you might also experience dislike of the new culture and react negatively or critically towards people and their behaviors. You might want to withdraw, and you might even wonder, why did I ever go abroad? However, believe it or not, these feelings are actually a good sign. They indicate that you're not merely skimming the surface of the new culture anymore, but you're actually engaging deeply with the differences through close personal contact. And the good news is that during the next period, which is adjustment, you've got your bearings. Like with the compass here, you're on the right track, going in the right direction. Now you have a routine and feel more settled. Everyday activities like housing, going to school, getting around are no longer major problems. You have developed strategies to cope with difficult feelings that you have. You made new friends, and you've learned to adapt to your new host culture. You feel more confident in dealing with the new culture because you've observed and learned how to do things according to new cultural norms, and you feel more comfortable expressing your ideas and feelings in the local language. You'll also feel a renewed sense of pleasure and sense of humor at this stage. As mentioned before, everyone goes through the cultural adjustment period in their own unique way and on their own individual timeline. And there may be periods of recurring isolation that come and go throughout the journey to adaptation. You may experience a recurrence of culture shock after the initial adjustment period. And at this point, you know, you've been away from your family and friends for a really long time, and you might feel lonely or homesick. You might still feel that you're not able to express yourself as well as you can in your own language and in your own culture. But the point here is to remember that this is a process, like the analogy of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. This will likely occur for most people going through cultural adaptation. As we said before, recognizing that the process has its ups and downs and moving forward and sliding back, no matter who you are, no matter what culture you're dealing with, keep in mind that, as with any learning experience, the enrichment that you find at the end of the journey does make the work of getting there worthwhile. And the ultimate stage of the adjustment cycle is adaptation. At this stage, you have a feeling of enthusiasm for the new culture and integration into it. You'll have established all your routine for work, school, social life, and become accustomed to the country's habits, customs, food, language, all those things. And now you have a deep comprehension and appreciation of cultural difference. You feel at home and you enjoy being in the new culture. And you now know how to bridge cultural differences and function well in the new culture. You accept, embrace cultural difference and adopt some behaviors from it into your own. You see the culture as your new home, and you don't want to depart anymore. And just when you think the process is complete, bam, it's not over yet. What happens when you return home? Well, you'll probably be very excited to go back home and take it for granted that since it's your own home culture, that your return will be seamless. You know, it doesn't occur to most of us that the same deep culture shock can happen in reverse when you go back home. Sometimes re-entry shock is even more difficult, actually, because we don't expect to have to adapt back to our own culture, but it happens. It's also known as reverse culture shock, and you can experience a similar adjustment process to the one that you had coming when you return back to your home, because you have changed and grown, and you need to become reacquainted with your culture and with your family and friends. So yeah, you can feel frustrated or angry or lonely when friends and family can't really relate to your experience or understand how you've changed. Things that you've never noticed about your own culture become really glaringly apparent, and you might even prefer some of the things about your new culture's way of doing and seeing things. But don't worry, you gradually adjust back to your home culture and things seem normal again, but probably never exactly the same. You will have new lenses that you see everything through. So now that we've talked about the cultural adaptation process itself, let's discuss some tips and strategies for how you can adapt successfully to your new life in Canada. We've got another poll everywhere coming, I hope. Is it coming up on the screen for you? No, okay. All right, well, what I was going to ask the participants to participate in is to just, again, if you could in the chat possibly, tell us some things that you think are ways that will help you adjust to a new life in Canada. So what are some things that you think are good ways of being or doing that will help adjust to life in a new country in Canada? And I'm just going to go over to the chat. Okay, so something's happened with this one. Okay. One second here. Sorry, guys, I'm just going to get this back on. I'm not sure. Huh.
We have started getting some comments here as well.
Okay, let's read those, please.
Good friends, just enjoy yourself and be busy. Talking with friends, already part of Canada. Self-dependence.
Very good, awesome. I'm just going to try to get this PowerPoint rebooted here.
Second year and first year student meetings.
Great, yep, keep them coming.
Open-mindedness.
Ah.
Networking. I love the points here. Connecting with others. Interact with more people. That's true. That means networking with more people. Getting familiar with the behavior of or cultural norms of natives would be really helpful. That's really good point. Yes.
Awesome ideas. Thank you for these excellent contributions. You already have some amazing strategies that you have put down here. Now, can I just ask, can people see the next slide, the one that says top tips for cultural adaptation now?
You'll just have to reshare your screen again, Catherine.
Yeah, okay. Share.
Oh, on screen. I thought you said on the application.
How's that?
Yes.
Perfect. Oh, good. Okay, so I'm just going to move into the last part of the presentation, which are top tips for cultural adaptation. As you can see here on the slide now, you had amazing suggestions and basically already said all the ideas that I'm probably going to be talking about here. But yeah, the top tips for cultural adaptation are, as we've discussed already, to be aware of the cultural adaptation process that you're going to experience. We've said how important it is to understand that you're going through a normal cycle of emotions and feelings, and recognizing that the ups and downs that you're having are part of the process. And this just gives you a perspective on your feelings and helps you understand that, you know, you're on a journey, and as with any journey, hopefully you can experience the fun of getting there as well. So awareness is really key. Another thing is observing. When you find something difficult, observe others and get a sense of norms and behaviors of the host culture. Look at, observe how do people greet each other? How do they line up? For the bus or in a shop? How do students interact with teachers? How do students interact with each other? Think about the communication styles that you observe when you see people interacting with each other or when they interact with you. And that'll all help you understand different and unfamiliar behaviors. And, try to suspend judgment if people are behaving in ways that are not acceptable in your country, because chances are that they are just following their own cultural rules and norms. Be curious and ask questions. Keep an open mind. Try to find a cultural informant. That's somebody who knows the culture, or somebody who's already gone through the same process that you're going through. And, you can ask questions like, Tell me about this. I'm curious about this. What does it mean when this happens? Or what does it mean when someone says this? And while you observe a given situation, think about how people in your own culture would behave in a similar situation. This is also an opportunity to learn about yourself and your home culture as you compare it with the cultural environment, the new one. And be patient and kind to yourself and others. So remember, you know, there's an overwhelming amount of information that you have to absorb in order to build up your cultural competence in your new country, from setting up, you know, a telephone service to making new friends, to learning how to work in student groups and function in the classroom. All the different rules that you've been brought up with, and all this takes time. It doesn't happen in a week. So be patient, trust the process, and be kind. Try to be patient and kind to the new culture as well, and give people the benefit of the doubt. If they're doing something that triggers a negative reaction in you, remember that it's pretty much guaranteed that that's not the intention. People are probably not intending to be rude or blunt. They're just behaving according to their own culturally determined ways. So consider every encounter a learning opportunity. For students, some specific cultural adjustment tips are to develop familiarity with your surroundings. You can still get outside after quarantine and explore your area, get to know where you can get the kind of food that you like, places that you can go to enjoy the outdoors. And just like you're doing today, participate in as many events as you can. This will help you create a community and give you a lot of connections, and also clues as to how things are done in Canada. So keep doing things like you're doing today. Stay informed of events that are happening and get involved in things that interest you. You'll meet like-minded people and make new friends. Connect with other students, go to live lectures and attend those things. Meet other students in your classes, get your chat groups going to support each other, both academically and personally. You'll all be going through the process and you can help each other through it. And keep in touch with family and friends back home. It's easy to do now with all our communication channels. And it just helps alleviate homesickness and maintains the connections that you will have, that are really important to you. And definitely seek support if you need it. You can't really avoid experiencing some degree of cultural transition, but you can learn a lot about yourself in the process. But if you're experiencing a lot of stress, speak with an advisor, okay? Georgian College's International Center or counseling services, they're there to support students who are going through a lot of stress. And it doesn't matter if it's from cultural transition or if it's, questions about academics or personal life, anything. It's confidential, it's free, it's online. So please don't hesitate to reach out for that. And just to conclude, I've got the chameleon on this slide here. And the remarkable thing, as we know about chameleons, is that they can change to adapt to and blend into their environment. So this is a little bit of a symbol of cultural adaptation. Like the chameleon, we don't change our DNA. Our culture is our culture, and it's actually quite impossible and not even desirable to change your culture that you had from your upbringing, but you can adapt yourself to a new environment so that you can not only survive, but thrive. So think about being flexible and adaptable like a chameleon as you go through the cultural adaptation process. You'll learn so much about your new culture and heaps that you never realized about your home culture in the process. It's not always easy, but as we said before, the journey is worth the effort. So we wish you the best on your academic, personal, and cultural adventure in Canada. And if there's any questions or comments, we can turn to those now, or we can put it over to Sid for the last part of the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you.
Okay, so I won't take much time. I have a couple of slides. I'll finish it in a very informal way because I know it's almost 1 hour and you are waiting for the session to get over and ask your questions. I've been there, don't worry. Okay, so everything Catherine said, it's absolutely true. And I'll tell you something, that once you are starting your journey, you might think it might be only for the students who are really going to notice the cultural change, or might be only for some people, but not for me. But trust me, at some point of time, it could be for you 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, sometimes 2 years. Sometime you will feel the cultural change in your life. And it's not just for international students. I am facing cultural change, cultural adaptation as much as Catherine is facing, as much as Asia is facing, as much as your faculties will be facing, because obviously cultural change is not just for you to the Canadian culture, but for the staff members and faculties to your culture as well. So it all comes down to that the game is same, but the rules are different. Now, all of you have played the game Monopoly or the game Uno, and you've seen that the rules changes every single time you play with a new player. It's so weird, it's so bizarre. Every single time you play the game, the rules are changing every time. But the entire game is same. The rules are different. Same simple process as eating. You might be eating rice with your fork, with a spoon, with chopstick, with your hands. The process is different, but the end result of digestion, that is same. Just like that, how you live in your country, the breathing, going to work, going to office, earning money, coming back, resting, starting a new day, the thing is same. But how you live in that, how you work in the office, the rules around that, how you communicate with people, how you drive, those rules are different, and that is your responsibility to learn the rules. Cultural sensitivity. Now, doesn't matter what point of life you are at. Maybe you are a citizen here in Canada, maybe you are a resident here, or maybe you're just a student. Never be ethnocentric. Now, what is ethnocentric? Ethnocentric is when you start imposing your rules, your cultural values, your traditions over other person's culture. You think your culture is better than the other person's culture. You think your traditions and values are better than the other person's. That is bad. And that is wrong. And the reason for that is how you were raised in your country. You have your own traditions, how another student, another colleague of yours got raised in their country. That's completely different. Our mind, even if we are humans, our mind is programmed just like a computer. For last 20-25 years, we have been doing a certain thing in a certain way, and we are used to that. If you use the spoon to eat rice, you are programmed in such a way. It will take time for you to switch to fork if you want to. You don't have to. If you want to, it will take time. If you don't want to, that's totally fine. But saying that eating rice with spoon is much better than eating rice with fork, now that is bad. There are cultural differences everywhere, so never judge another person based on the cultural difference. Because what you will find difference in other person will find the difference in you as well. But how you bridge that gap is by being curious. You can ask other people, why do you do a certain thing in a certain way? Having those whys, having those curiosity, that will help you bridge the gap. That will help you understand why certain things are done in a certain way in different countries. And always there is a why. You are coming from, oh wait, sorry. Is my presentation, you can see my presentation?
We can see it, Sid. You just have to put it full screen. That's it.
And how do I do that? Sorry, I just
at the, I think that do F5 is supposed to be a shortcut.
Oh, in that way. My bad. I'm sorry. Thanks, Kenta. Thanks, Asia.
Don't worry.
Perfect. Sorry, I was so much in the flow. I get excited about this all the time. Okay, so always be curious about things, because the more curiosity you will have, the more better learning you will have about the cultures. And again, you're coming from your home country to a country which has people from different countries and cultures everywhere, not just your classroom with 30 students, but a company where you will be working with 300 different people. Your HR will be in a different country altogether, your vendors, your customers, your clients, your project people, everyone will be in different country and from different cultures. Now, how you get along with them, that is the thing that your employer will look into it. Canada is a place where employers will not hire you based on your PhDs or your masters or your bachelors. If you have triple bachelors, 5 times masters, no, they will see how well you have your soft skills, whether you have confidence, whether you have good communication skills. And good communication skills doesn't mean if you can speak in English. Good communication skills is how well can you listen? Are you a good listener? How well can you communicate with people from different countries and cultures? Because here you won't be communicating with people from your own culture. You will be communicating with people from all over the world. Georgian itself has students from over 85 different countries. Now, if you are just stopping and restricting yourself to communicate with people with your own culture, trust me, you are not growing, because 10 years ahead in time, when you look back, you would want to see a different you. If you are still the same person after 10 years that you were in your home country, you have not grown. Do not hesitate to ask questions, be it Asia, be it Catherine, be it Kenta. As many questions as you have, ask it. Be it your group members, your faculty, any staff member. You see a person in a bus, obviously, if it's comfortable, if it's safe to, then only. But ask them if you have any questions. This is a place where you can learn about different cultures. Let's just say I am from Ukraine, and you are from Colombia. Now, if you want to know anything and you're an accounting student, you want to know how accounting is done in Ukraine, you ask me that. Because when you graduate, you will have information about how accounting is done in Canada, as well as how accounting is done in Ukraine. Now, let's say you graduated, now you're working with a multinational company where its head office or a customer is in Ukraine. Now that knowledge will be useful for you that you had during your graduation. Observe all the time, because and I'll give you an example for that. When I first came to Canada, and it was my very first day in Georgian, and I tell this story, and I've told this story about a million times now. I was walking up to the staircase to go to the International Center, and on the staircase, I bumped into the first person. When I bumped the first person, I was like, okay, and I said sorry, and the other person said sorry as well. 5 minutes down in the hallway, I bumped another person. I'm like, what's wrong with people? Why can't they work properly? 5 minutes again after my work was done at the International Center, I came out, and while walking, I was going on the staircase again. Again, I bumped. I was like, what is wrong with people here? They don't know how to walk or what? But later I realized that in Canada, you walk on the right side. Now, I come from a country which was ruled by British for 200 years, and we are half British somehow. And we walk on left, we drive on left, and we are programmed to do everything accordingly. But here, everything is done on right. And the beautiful part is every time I apologize, even though it was my fault, the other person apologized too. And we'll get to that. That's how beautiful Canada is. Even if it's not your fault, you apologize. So observe little things. These little things will make you a better person in future. It will make you to adjust with the culture in a better way. Personal space, and now I'll shorten the slide. Personal space is very important in Canada. Obviously, due to COVID, it comes naturally now, but personal space is part of Canadian culture. If you want to know what personal space is, 1 arm's length distance, 360 degrees, that's the personal space. You cannot enter anybody's personal space, or nobody can enter your personal space without your consent without seeing if they see that you are uncomfortable, they cannot enter your personal space. Same thing goes if you're walking in hallway, do not walk too closely. If you are standing in a queue at a bus stop, do not stand too closely. Once COVID will be over, always maintain this 1 arm length distance. I should not say these words, but these are cheat codes for you. Basic etiquettes. And again, this goes everywhere, wherever in the world you go. Smile, have a small talk. If you're ordering a coffee at Tim Hortons, have a small talk. Hey, how are you? Or how your day is going. Always use the word please, because obviously you don't want to order someone to do something for you, right? There's no harm in saying sorry, just as how you would apologize to your partner all the time. You have to sometimes. Just like that, apologize, even if you think that's not your fault. Just like I told you, I was bumping into people, and even if it was not their fault, they was being apologetic, and there's no harm in being sorry. In Canada, you will see if you are talking to a true Canadian, if they're speaking 500 words, out of 500, 250 would be easily filled with sorry, please, and thank you. So if you take that into consideration, if you start behaving in such a way, not only it will make you a better person, but a true multicultural Canadian as well. Obviously, if you appreciate someone, for example, once you have your coffee, if you appreciate someone by saying thank you, have a great day, or you will see that cars will stop when you're crossing the road. You just raise your hand here and say thank you, because obviously everyone who doesn't love to be appreciated all the time, right? Say have a great day and smile all the time, because your positivity, your positive smile will be making other person's day. Ground rules of talking. When in class, obviously in virtual world, or if you have in-person classes, make sure that you talk only in English, because what happens if you are talking with people from your own culture or own country and you're talking in your mother tongue, even though you're talking about something else, the faculty or the other students might feel that you're talking about them. And it's not it's disrespectful. So don't do that. If the faculty is talking, make sure that you do not interrupt. If your friends are sharing their points, do not talk in that period of time. Again, for some people, this is common sense, and you know that, yes, but sometimes you don't realize that your microphone might be unmuted, and you might be talking that time. Or if the faculty asked you to share your point, you might have shared your point already. Now it's someone else's point and you started talking to someone. Now that is disrespectful. Punctuality. If your class starts at 9 a.m., join by 8:55 a.m. I know time zone and the value of time is different all over the world. In some countries, if it's 9 a.m., even 9:30 or 9:45 a.m. is fine. But in Canada, if it's 9 a.m., join by 8:50, 8:55 a.m. Be there. If your faculty says that the deadline for your assignment is 9:07 a.m., that means 9:06, 59 seconds. Because 9:07, your assignment and test will not be submitted. It will not be taken into consideration. It's always better to be on time, before time, because then you have time to prepare, mentally prepare to the environment. If you have any presentation, you can make sure that all the technical things associated with it are in place. Hygiene, very important. You know, and I have seen this ad. So there's a very famous ad that if you use this particular brand perfume or any brand perfume and you use all of it, people from other sex are attracted to you. That's not how things are done here. It's if you have very strong smell of perfume, any strong smell, people might not like that. Not just that, some people might have allergies to strong smells, and there will be scent-free zones. So make sure that if you are applying some kind of perfume, it's not a very strong smell. Other thing is, if you love spices, I do. If you love spices in your food, make sure once you travel to Canada, or if you are thinking of traveling to Canada, make sure that your clothes that you wear outside or you wear with people maybe in your classroom, or maybe once you graduate, make sure that your clothes are away from the kitchen area. Make sure that you are not cooking in the clothes that you wear outside. The reason for that is even when you don't realize, all the strong smell of that beautiful, aromatic, homely feeling food, it goes into your clothes. And to you, that might smell like home, but for other people, that's not a sense of home because you have a very strong smell now. So make sure all your jackets, your shirts, t-shirts, you do not cook in the clothes that you wear outside. And there is no harm in asking your friend or someone that you know to ask for feedback. That do you think there's a strong smell coming from my clothes? Because if you have feedback right now, that will help you grow in future, because then you will know, okay, I don't have to do this, I don't have to do that. And later on, you can tell other people as well as your family in near future. Last but not the least, you present your family, your society, your city, your state, and ultimately your country. If you want to do something, do the best, be the best and do the best. Represent what your country is, what your culture is. Do not do anything that will make that, again, it's not up to you, right? It's human behavior. If something happens to me, I would tend to think that the culture is like that. But I would please request you, if something happens to you, or if you go through a certain situation, do not question anybody's culture, because in the end, if you are in a classroom, even in your home country, there will be 4 or 5 people who will be creating a nuisance in the class. That doesn't mean that that class is bad. What I do personally is, if something bad happens to me, or if somebody is not being at their best with me, I question the personality of the person, not the culture or the country behind it, because every person behave in a certain different way. Now, if I put you and your sibling along, both of you together, and you both are talking to me, obviously you both will have different personality traits, pardon my English, personality traits. But that does not mean that your country is bad. That means you have a certain characteristic, the other person has certain characteristic. I won't bore you more. That'll be all. Let's take the questions now. Okay, I see the question here. First question. This question is for Kenta. Ken, I'm looking ads on Kijiji and noted that all renters require score credit, pay stubs, and references. How can I rent when I don't have any of these? I have seen. Okay, that's the first part. Go on.
Oh, that's the first part. Okay.
Yes.
You can hear me now. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Really, I think you have to let the landlord know that you may not have access to those documents, and if they're comfortable, you provide in supplemental document instead of those credit scores, and because those things are something that you will start to build after you arrive into Canada. So what you can also use is the other off-campus housing opportunities, such as off-campus residences or homestay programs. Otherwise, you can try to negotiate alternative, I guess, credit, not report, but credible documentation, such as maybe you have savings from home countries, or you had an employment before, and then you could have a reference letter from your employer and stuff like that. So it comes down to how much the landlord can be comfortable with you providing the documents from whatever that you have. So even if the posting says we require this, and if you don't have them, I think it's worth for you to contact them and to negotiate if that's an opportunity, and also to look for the other alternatives. Don't rely on one posting. It may look like beautiful, your dream house, but that will be my suggestion.
Perfect. And the second part of that is, I have seen some apartments that are way cheaper than others in the same category. How can I find what's wrong with it? Why is it so cheap?
That's a really good question. Thank you so much. Usually, I think this is everyone saying, what's too good to be true is never true, really. It's always, there's something always with that too good stuff. So the good point to check out is whether they are indeed the owner of the house, but you can't really check that. It's always good to do a Google search on the Google map, because sometimes what they do is take a picture of whatever the house and put it on the posting. And sometimes that doesn't match with the actual map, right? Another thing to note is if they're asking you to send the money overseas other than Canada, that's a big red flag because the person should not be somewhere else. Another one is if they tell you that they can mail you the key, that's another big red flag also. That, you know, this is a very common thing. Oh, I'm on vacation and I'm in different country right now and I cannot be there and I want you to pay money and I will send you the keys. That never really happens. The good thing to do is to do those three things. And I think when in doubt, ask the questions back at the landlord also. There's also the resources that I have shared with you on our website. And there's rental property checklist available also, so you can compare that against. Oh, you're muted again.
Perfect.
Yes.
So this next question, I think both Catherine and Kenta can answer. What are common difficulties that international students could face while traveling to Canada so that we can prepare ourselves prior to arrival or can set our mind accordingly?
Maybe I will have you answer Catherine first and I'll add on. Is that okay?
Yes, yes, please.
Oh, well, I think what I can firstly, first say is the traditional experience has changed very much. The student experience and arrival experience and all of that experience has changed from last year, 2 years ago. Now, a lot of things you have to come prepared for, but first thing first, really, when you come here, you won't be leaving a place. So you have to be prepared to quarantine and to be able to pass that stage, right? So you want to prepare a means to connect with your family, a means to connect with other staff members at Georgian College. You have the ability to order things online. That means you have an online payment method and you have things to entertain yourself and you have everything you need for those 14 days to keep yourself engaged with people, with your own learning and some entertainment, because I have quarantined myself for 14 days and it's not easy. You need stuff to be really, to entertain yourself, whether it be studying, reading, listening to music, whatever it may be. So I will just leave it at that and then maybe pass it on to Catherine.
Oh, thank you, Kenta. Yeah, it's definitely a much more complex process to, arrive in Canada now. And as Kenta mentioned, the quarantine period is tough. I would say that, learning about the culture beforehand, just from the cultural perspective, Sid has given a lot of really good points today about specifically the Canadian culture. I would say that the academic culture is going to be a little bit different for students as well. So knowing that, there's a lot more assignments and little mini tests and quizzes and stuff, and things are not just based on a final exam, things like that. Getting to know how there's usually less formality involved in relationships in the Canadian context with faculty. So faculty might ask you to call them by their first name sometimes. People dress more casually, they interact more casually, and that there's a difference in the teaching style where students are expected to do a lot more participation and group work and independent work in Canadian classrooms compared to some other places. So being aware that these are the kind of differences that you're going to encounter in the academic environment, even when you're studying remotely, is going to be, helpful for you to understand what you're seeing and what's happening around you. But yeah, if you have any other specific questions like that, we can talk about it. But in general, I think you know, the advice that Sid has given and observing is such a good thing to a good tip on how to be prepared for the differences. Yeah.
I certainly agree. And I think another, can you hear me okay? It's scary. Yeah. This virtual world is scary or new to everybody, right? So that's another thing to come prepared for. You're not in the classroom really like in the traditional classroom anymore, that you have to be aware of so many things. And I think it's important. Yeah, and then it's important to add on to what Sid said and Catherine said, I think, to be, you know, not to be ethnocentric and to be open-minded. And I think for you to be able to communicate to the people that you come across, that you're a newcomer to Canada as well, right? So you're learning things differently, you're new to this learning environment, new to Canadian cultures in the classroom, so that they know who you are also, because it's really hard to see on the virtual environment.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So Kenta, I have the next question here. It has two parts, both for you. First part, my program is remote and I will not be traveling for this semester. My Georgian Assist app shows paid status. I haven't uploaded any receipts though. Do I still need to update receipts for my expected status change?
If you have access to the paid status, it may be because we've already known you that you have paid the tuition fee and then we promoted your status already. If that shows, no worries. You don't have to take any actions.
Perfect. The Georgian Assist app shows my student ID in place of my phone number and shows as verified. Is it because I do not have a Canada number yet?
Sorry, the question was...
the application shows the student's ID in place of the phone number.
Okay, I think that may be a mistake. So if you could actually contact us at the quarantine...
Sorry. I can write that.
Okay.
No problem.
The email address that we have share with you and the one that Sid's sharing right now. That would be great. And we can take a look at that together.
Perfect. Next question. Can we live in separate room for the 11 days quarantine in a friend's house? Our famous and most interesting question.
Yes, we recommend not to. The challenge is that we have seen a lot of students trying to put together a private quarantine plan. Yes, it is okay to have that plan also, but we have seen many cases of students having the private plan where they're going to relatives' place or into the hotel even and getting turned around at the border because border service officers are not confident enough to let you go into that quarantine facility. So what we can best recommend is for you to take the Georgian College quarantine package. Number one, it has everything you need for quarantine. Number two, it should be quite reasonable. There's financial support available for students also for using the quarantine package. Number three, the immigration officers know that this is a package put together by the college that's been approved by the Ministry of Education in Ontario to have the students come in crossing border. So hopefully that answers your question.
Definitely. Next one is, I was not able to access the commitment form because Georgian Assist app requires the Flywire number and receipt to access the form. But I paid my fees through bank transfer, so I cannot have that receipt. So what should I do to get the travel support letter?
So that question is a little bit for me, I guess, for the arrival process. So you have paid your tuition fee by wire transfer instead of Flywire, yeah? Is that what I got? Okay, so if you don't have the option to upload, please contact the email address that Sid indicated earlier, same one, quarantine support, and then let us know that you cannot upload the payment receipt. And if you can attach your payment receipt for the wire transfer, then we'll take a look at that and then approve on the system so we can go around the system, okay?
Perfect.
And
thanks.
sorry.
And,
Yeah, in order for you to access the travel support letter, this is what we call actually now a quarantine commitment letter. It's issued after you submit the quarantine commitment form.
Perfect. Thanks, Kenta. Next one is for Catherine. Catherine, I know we have already covered this, but I think this one is more towards tips to indulge in the new culture. I think being involved in the community-wise to get to know the culture firsthand. What are the tips for that?
Yeah, well, actually, you know, I would say that the college has a lot of things, events. I mean, we're in a virtual world, so it's different from before, but there's a lot of events at college where you can make connections, clubs, find like-minded people there, and you know, attending live lectures where you can connect with the students that you're with there. You're going to meet students all over the world that way, which is great. And you know, get the informally, you can get things going with people that you know can be supportive of you both academically and personally from these kind of contacts. Just getting involved in as many things as possible, get out into the community once you can, of course, in a safe manner and maintaining all the you know, physical and social distancing kind of regulations, but you know, there's things happening around Barrie where you can go, you know, to the parks and walk around and enjoy nature and all of these things. So yeah, just try to plug in that way. And there's cultural groups that are organized through the college and in the community as well. So there are plenty of opportunities to connect in with people. I hope that answers the question. Sid is.
Yep, that's perfect. Kenta, is living
Yes.
in Barrie comparatively higher than the other provinces? And how much can be the estimated cost of living in Barrie for an international student per month?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Number one, yes, Barrie is an expensive place. It is one of the. Okay, what you can expect is you will find student housing opportunities, and summer is a little bit easier time. I think there's little more vacancies over other time. There's less students within the community during summer. The average rent is absolutely $500 and up. So that's what you can expect for a room rental. But it is that's probably the price range. I'll say 500 to anything from $500 to $800 for a room rental will be the average of your room rental. That means you'll be sharing common space like kitchen, living room, those places with other people. If you're going to be renting an apartment, then that's going to be, of course, a little bit more expensive because you'll have a space to yourself. I believe Ontario is one of the provinces that have the higher rent. I mean, provinces are big. But yes, the off-campus rentals are usually from somewhere, I believe it's about $550 and up. So what was the second part of the question, Sid? Sorry, I lost track now.
No problem. Second part was that, oh, did I dismiss it? Wait, sorry, going back in. Sorry, wait.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I see. Okay.
Okay, I can't see the question, but it was that how much can be the total monthly expense for an international student per month for them?
Yeah, so the reason why I said it's a good question is really depends on the person, right? How you'll be spending your daily expenses. I think you can estimate probably your food expenses. If you're cooking for your own meal and stuff like that, you could probably expect something about $100 to $200. If you are eating out a lot, then that can go exponentially. Other things that you can expect is probably your cell phone bills. You're probably gonna have a cell phone, and then it's typically around $50 and up, I think, if it's a cheaper plan and stuff like that. So give and take, I think if you're estimating $1,000 for a month, or maybe a little bit less on the cheaper side, I think that's pretty good budget for your expense, including your rent, your food, and other necessities.
Perfect. Next. So this is more of a housing question, not quarantine. Just to clarify, can you please elaborate about Georgian accommodation? How are we supposed to use the common kitchen area? What would be the person cost? That's a lot of questions. Let's start with one at a time.
Okay. Another thing that you can also do if there's a lot of questions, and I would be hesitant to answer all the questions, not necessarily applicable to everybody. So you can also email me with a specific question, and I'll be happy to answer the specific questions for you.
Better actually. Let me write the email ID of housing. That's perfect. So please use this email ID with your full name always. Again, I forgot this part. Doesn't matter who you are emailing out to in the college, which department you are reaching out to. Always remember to put your full name, your student number, the program name, for us to find you in the system and help you better.
The another reason why I mentioned this, or taking the more personal approach, is because there are multiple one on-campus residence and a multiple off-campus residence available for Georgian students. So I wasn't sure which one you're talking about. So I can address in the way that you have specific questions for.
Perfect. So this question is it possible to get housing for 1 year in college? As it is mentioned that housing is for few months, like from September to mid-April, then where it is for rest of the months, what it is for the rest of the months.
Okay. I think this question is particularly for on-campus residents. On-campus residence operates for what we call the academic year. That means the 2 semesters of fall and winter. So from September to December, January to April. So summer is not counted, and that's a separate term what they define. Okay, so that's where the missing time is. Depending on the housing arrangement, if you're renting the room outside of on-campus rentals, then they may sign a contract or lease with you for 1 year, and there's no gaps. Off-campus rentals work sometimes the way on-campus residence works, sometimes the way the other rentals work. So again, depends on what you're looking at.
Sorry, I saw that I was typing while I was on mute. Okay, this is more for Catherine. Catherine, the question is, do everyone at workplace and colleges greet international students in the best way? I think it's more of a question, are they welcomed?
Yes. We have about 4,500 international students at the college, and we absolutely love the fact that we can welcome students from all over the world. It enriches our environment tremendously, and we learn so much from being with each other and sharing our different experiences, backgrounds, and perspectives. So you will find in your classroom environments that your instructors will really want to greet you, first of all, and welcome you to the environment, but they'll really want to hear what you have to say. Because each person and each country brings in a different kind of background and, as I said, perspective to the situation. So you will be considered a valuable asset to the classroom environment and to the college, to the community as well, for the kinds of contributions that each unique individual and each cultural individual brings to the situation. So please know how welcome you are. Can't wait to have you in our community.
Amazing. Kenta, first question. I have seen some ads with the phrase legal rent. What does it mean? Is there any illegal rent?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. I love the questions that's coming through. Yes, there are illegal rental places, and they will not publicly advertise that. So what they're trying to do is when they say legal is they have gone through the inspections and they're under the, you know, what we call the bylaws. That's another regulation locally that's set out. So they are not violating any of the rules. For example, for security of the houses, if the room has a easy access to fire exit and stuff like that, if they don't pass those things, then they're not legal rentals. So it doesn't mean that because it's illegal, they're dealing with drugs or any other kind of stuff, but that means when they're put in legal housing, they pass all the necessary requirements and regulations that they need to go through.
Perfecto. Next question is really good. And the question is, what are the common housing scams?
Yeah, so I think I kind of went over that a little bit ago. One thing is if they're asking you to send money, for example, for a 1-year lease altogether, that's illegal, actually. They can ask for the first and last month. They are asking you to send money overseas other than Canada. That's strange. They're letting you know that they're going to mail the key to you. They're not going to do that overseas. What else? I think those are really, really common things. I'm just thinking for other stuff. I'm here still. Sorry.
I was like,
I am here. I just stopped. I do this all the time.
So,
I know we are coming close to the time, so I didn't want to take
too much.
Take too much time. My brain just froze thinking about all this kind of stuff. What are the other things? Yes, okay. Sometimes they won't. Make sure when you go visit the place or when you're dealing with the landlord about your arrangement that you confirm how many people are living in the house, what is your access to certain things, right? Because sometimes they can guarantee you something and then they never deliver. So important thing is to have it in writing also. So keep any records of communications that you have had with the landlord and have that on paper, right? And what they can do sometimes is, okay, you have access to XYZ and you only have access to X, right? So I think I'll leave it at that. I think that covers probably a common ground.
That is perfect. Okay, I'm going to find questions that are untouched. I saw somewhere that we have to insure the place rented, which is, I think, renter's insurance. Is that true? What other obligations do we have as a tenant?
Mm-hmm. This depends on the places that you're going to be renting. Some places require you to have a liability insurance. This means that if you, by accident, you broke something or somebody came in and took your stuff, God forbid, but then they'll be insured and you'll be covered for it. So depends on the places. Normal room rentals, sometimes they don't have that requirement, but it's good to have.
Catherine, where can the students find more information to learn about Canadian culture? How can they better equip themselves with the correct information?
You know what? There's loads on the internet. I think that government website has a lot. The Canadian government website does have a pretty rich section on culture. But yeah, I can, if you want to research more, I can find some websites and put them, like, contact me and I'll put my email in the chat, or maybe Sid, if you don't mind doing that I'm not sure how to do that. Super. And I can send some websites specifically, but you know, the Canadian government one, the like IRCC and all that, there's loads of culture stuff on that one that's really, really good. And that'll be a great starting place. And you know, there's so much on, if you just do a Google search on Canadian academic culture, Canadian business culture, all those things. And, you know, we could even run a session specifically on Canadian culture and differences if there's interest in that. I'd be happy to put something together.
There's a website called Orientation to Ontario. And in that one, I think there's an orientation booklet. We also partner with that organization that actually published this document and provide what's called International Student Connect program. So we invite you to look for that information. Maybe I can put it in the chat somewhere. I don't know how to do that. Can I find it?
That's awesome. And Kenta, you're just reminding me that we have the book that our students put together, the Enactus Club, that is orientation for students. So maybe we could make that available as well.
So while you're doing that, Kenta, there's a question that what is the average rent amount for a room in Barrie? Correct me if I'm wrong, it's between $500 to $800 depending on what students want in that room.
Absolutely. Yes, that's the amount that I mentioned.
Okay. Okay, another question is, can the students live in another city like Brampton instead of Barrie, or they can live in Toronto or in another province if they have remote classes? Great
question. And this is a good point. You can absolutely do that. You have the opportunity to live pretty much anywhere if your classes are delivered remotely. One consideration is if you have an in-person classes, then you're required to be on campus. So want to be close to the college, wherever you're attending your classes for. And also keep in mind that if we ever go back on campus at one point in time, then you need to come back to the campus community. So just always keep that in mind, but you're not bound by the cities of the campus to live nearby the campus, as you know, always.
Beautiful. I can answer the next question. The question is, what all documents will I be required to carry with myself and show at the airport while traveling to Canada? So to be on the safe side, you would need 3 sets of documents. The first set of documents to be on the safe side is all the documents that you use to apply for your visa. Second is all the documents related to quarantine. It could be your quarantine confirmation, quarantine commitment letter issued by the college, your transportation or food receipts, booking confirmation. And the third one is that you will require the POE document, the letter that you get from IRCC that says that your study permit is approved. So if you have all 3 sets of documents, you're safe, provided you're eligible to travel. Okay, I do not have any other new question, but I would say that if we missed your question today, we have live chats Monday, Wednesday, Friday on Instagram at noon, which is 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is Ontario time zone. If you missed your questions, please log on to our Instagram live chat sessions and ask your question there. Or if we are not available, there's another wonderful resource that you can tap into, which is when you go onto your student portal, you will see GCSA live chat. You can ask your questions there anytime when it is online and get your answers to your question. Over to you, Aisha.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Sid, Kenta, Catherine, for sharing your time with us this morning. Students, I hope you found this was informative and valuable. I know there's folks had lots of similar questions. So also know that you're not alone, and many folks had similar questions. And so it's great to ask them, and hopefully you feel like you have a little bit more information under your belt to be successful. So thank you, panelists, for being here with us this morning. As Sid said, there is lots of resources to continue to connect and ask your questions. So the live chats, as well as the live chat on our student portal. So the time for that is Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4 p.m. Okay, Eastern Standard Time. So that is a great resource for you to utilize if you feel like you have some questions that come on up and maybe you're not getting a response via email. We'll do our best to get those to you. So I'll wrap this up really quick because I know we have a session starting right at 10:30 here. So just a reminder to everyone, we are recording these sessions and it will be posted. The recordings are taking a little bit of time to download, so just be patient with us, but we'll get them up there this week. We are also doing random draw for a winner for each Head Start session. So stay tuned to your email. You might be the lucky winner. And the more you participate, the more likely you might actually win our grand prize as well. So continue to participate with us, and thank you for being so engaged. So with that, I want everyone hopefully to head on over to meet your Georgian College Student Association. So we're going to wrap this up, and if you can hop on over to the next link, that would be awesome. Thank you, everyone.